Excuse me, can you hear me at all, Rob?
key focus for that first year. You may have to drive, Fiona. In February 2022, we had our first strategy development meeting. We obviously wanted to put in a strategic framework for the trust. In March 2022, one of the trustees that was initially appointed in October 2021 resigned due to a conflict of interest. So we had to fill that vacant position, which was filled by Chris Foggan in March 2022. We also have a memorandum of understanding with the Southland District Council as well, and we went back and forth signing that. That isn't a legal document, but essentially sets out how we work with one another in terms of communication, in terms of provision of an annual report, and how we update the council. Just a good guiding principle, essentially. We had our first official partner meeting in May 2020 in Lumsden, and we have our second one coming up this month as well. And the remainder of 2022 was around some project scoping for us to look through for our future focuses, working on a redevelopment of our website and new imagery and video. Next slide, please, Fiona. Okay, so we've continued this year with our shoot has finished with our imagery and video. Our website redevelopment is going very well, and we're looking to launch in the next couple of months, and we have our next official partner and community meeting on the 29th of May this month. So this is the year-on-year growth, which I'm very delighted to show you on the numbers on our trail. So this goes back it shows 4 seasons from 1920. You'll note that the season is taken from the 1st of March to the 28th of February. So it's not a calendar year and it's not a financial year. It's 1 March to 28 February. So these are accurate numbers up for the 22-23 season, which is on the right-hand side. We have 5 counters. Yes, it is split out between pedestrians and cyclists because we do have dual use on the track. I'd like to just acknowledge the reason why pedestrian number is slightly higher. The Kingston counter has quite a high pedestrian number, and that's due to the resident population. So there's a lot of people that go for their morning walk, utilising that trail and going past that counter, and probably coming back and forth, as they're doing that. So there is some analysis that goes on behind the scenes, and we've noticed since that Kingston counter went in that pedestrian number you'll see from the 21-22 as well has jumped up, and that is due to those residents. And of course, if you think about that holiday population as well, and it's swelling and utilising that as well. I think it's really pleasing to see that the growth on the trail, you'll notice 2021 season was a considerable jump, and please bear in mind that that was a COVID season as well. So that was our domestic market getting out and enjoying the trail, but also we now have international back as well. Next slide, please. So we have through our monthly data reports that are done through Get Smart. So this is part of the Great Rides network that we're part of. So this is a national survey process, as well as those, must just allude to the fact that the counters that we have are also counters that all the Great Rides have around the region. So all of this is centralised repository in terms of how we count data and also how we understand a snapshot of our monthly surveys. So the overall satisfaction of the trail, so all 23 Great Rides average is 8.9, and our trail is average is 8.7, which is it's great. 10% is very satisfied. Again, these stats are from 1 March to the 28th of February this year. Just a snapshot of comments there. There's obviously some great positive comments as well. And then there's also about what could make the experience more enjoyable. I don't think there's any surprises in some of those comments that we see coming through as well. Next slide, please. These 2 slides show in terms of visitation and the use and where people are coming from to use the trail. So the blue is the people that live in the area, and the orange is people visiting the area. So local or visitor percentage. So for the 22-23 season, it's considerably high that people that are using the trail are visiting the region, which is excellent to see in terms of people are coming to our region for that reason of our Great Ride. The point down the bottom, the 21-22 period, over 40% were living in the area at the time, and that has dropped. You could reason that with a number of different things: international markets opening, visitors back in, and obviously more of a domestic market 21-22 due to COVID restrictions. Trail influence on visiting the area. Again, the blue is people visiting the area due to the trail, which is considerably higher versus people visiting for other reasons. So the trail is a reason why people are coming to a region and participating on that. They're probably quite hard to read, but I can send these out. These are some snapshots from the evaluation of the Great Rides Network. So this is a consolidation. At this stage, there was it was 23 Great Rides. This was done by Angus and Associates, which is a nationally renowned research company that works in tourism. They've done some research on the Great Rides in total, and it was done in 2021 and released in 2022. So this is showing visitor nights. Again, it's not our trail, it's the whole Great Ride Network around the nation. But it's essentially showing us that the survey results that are received, that over the last 2 years, almost half the cycle trail users have been visiting because of the trail. And it's not for really other reason. It equates to more than 1 million individual visitors, contributing to more than 3.6 million visitor nights to the Great Ride regions in the last financial year. This is an increase of more than 550,000 nights, an 18% increase for the previous year. So this is showing a driver for the trail and what it does to our economy. If you just pop to the next slide, Fiona. Visitor expenditure is, again, a key one. Again, this is the Great Rides Network. So using a combination of the trail user survey data and counter data, we can estimate that we have delivered more than 950 million in new expenditure to the host regions for year-end June 2021. And that is an increase of 31% on the previous year. You'll see on the right, $892.20 is the average expenditure per person. And the breakdown in the middle is around what they spend that on. So it's those services that sit around the trail: the accommodation, transport, activities, food and drink, and other. This is really important to understand, obviously, from a tourism perspective and a visitor's perspective, and the impact that these trails can have and the huge positive impact that these trails can have to our regions. This is all publicly available information. It's on the MB website. There's two pieces of work done by Angus and Associates. One, the evaluation of the trails, and two, insights. So actually looking at our markets moving forward, who do we need to market to? The Australian market's huge, and as a collaboration. So I can send you the link if you're interested in looking at them. They're excellent reports. Next slide, please. So this is the Trust Strategic Framework for 22 for the next 10 years. We worked as a trust to put this together. This is ultimately based on the New Zealand Cycle Trail Strategic Framework that they have as well. We've obviously set ourselves a vision. We have key guiding principles: vibrant community, health and recreation, economic and sustainability. We have stated our purpose, and we have 4 strategic focuses, which is around our user experience, promotion, infrastructure, and stakeholder engagement. We then have, sitting behind this, is annual plans that set out the work that we would like to do in the next years moving forward about how we deliver on that. As I said, it aligns with the New Zealand Cycle Trail framework as well. So the key priorities for the last 22-23 year has been to develop our key marketing and promotional tools, strengthening our relationship with the New Zealand Cycle Trail Trust, and also Great South. So Great South, as you'll be very much aware, manages the 2 regional tourism organisations for Southland, Visit Fiordland and Visit Southland. So in terms of promoting the trail and tourism and having that, we need to have close ties with them to build that into their holistic marketing. Official partner program, we've looked at project scoping and the trail grading review. So just to note that we see that as a huge positive in terms of our marketability for the trail, is that the split has now increased between grade 2 and grade 3. Grade 3 is essentially because of our off-road components, and until we move the trail, the on-road components. So until we can move off-road for some of our components, there will always be grade 3. So that is because we are on-road in sections of our trail. That has actually improved due to their grading split has improved due to some of the flood work repair that happened a number of years ago, which improved the trail surface, which was excellent. That grading as well is a centralised grading that's done for all of the great rides. It has to be done robustly in terms of safety as well. You cannot, so we just don't get to determine what grade we call ourselves. It has to go through a robust process and be ticked off by the New Zealand Cycle Trail. Moving on to our social media. So look, I just wanted to show we've now engaged a social media specialist. So previous to the Trust coming on board, the Southland District Council communications team managed the marketing for the trail, and that has now, responsibility sits with the Trust. So we're working really hard on our engagement on Facebook and Instagram. Look, first to admit that our numbers aren't hugely high, but what we are now creating is a baseline and analysis of insights. So we look at our insights every month. We then look at the timing of our posts, what posts are actually creating more interest. So if there's a little bit of homework for all of the councillors to take away, if you do not currently like the Around the Mountain Cycle Trail Facebook page or Instagram page, if you could do that, that would be wonderful to create that engagement and those insights. And you'll see some really cool information that comes through there. So we're working very hard in our social media space. Next slide, please. We've got a new website under development, which is a considerably big task for the Trust to undertake, but we're really excited with how this is shaping up. We work very closely with our stakeholders. Great South is the RTO to understand from a tourism perspective. These are a couple of snapshots of stills of the pages. We've worked very closely with the New Zealand Cycle Trail communications team and also the Southland District Council's communication team as well. It's been received really positively. We're moving to more of a persona-based approach, so that is around tying in with the New Zealand Cycle Trail about how people actually want to use the trail. Day rides are becoming increasingly popular, so we're looking at marketing ourselves around to capture all of that too. We're hoping to launch in the next couple of months with a new website. Next slide, please. Image library. So I'd just like to acknowledge the partnership with Great South with this. We've partnered with them to do a photo shoot, which has created a whole new library of brand new images on the trail. We've also created videos. So there'll be a video, it's about 90 seconds long, of the full trail end to end. We've also got a hero video, which is a snapshot of all of the key parts along the trail, which will have maps, location markers. It's looking very slick. And again, that's a critical component to us marketing the trail. We've also done 3 snapshots on 3 particular sections of the trail that could be used as a day ride, as that market is starting to grow as well. We've got a New Look newsletter, and we've also worked with NZCT, which was their national program, was around trailhead signage. So we've got 2 massive signs, one in Mosman and one in Kingston, which talks about the Great Rides Network. Next slide, please. Our official partners, we have 38 official partners for the 22-23 season. They're extremely important to us, and a lot of what we're doing in our marketing space is to support our official partners. There are a lot of small businesses, so what we can do to increase our marketing for the trail then helps them, because we're contributing, they're an official partner, it's all connected. If we can increase that trail visibility, more people are coming to the region using their services, so they're extremely important. We're looking forward to catching up with them again in May at the community meeting. They provide us with survey support as well, so all of the trail users doing surveys, and as you can see, that information is incredibly valuable for the previous slides around understanding where they come from and how they use the trail. Next slide, please. So this is just our future focus. So I've just put this into 3 different areas here. So ongoing is obviously the completion of our website and launch is really critical, and we've got our community and official partner meeting in Lumsden on the 29th of May. Under short term, we've had connections with Reforest Northern Southland Charitable Trust, who are looking at plantings in appropriate places along the trail. So we're investigating that partnership and where we can work together to look at that, which would be adding value to the trail and to the region. We've also had an engineering proposal done through Southland District Council around a bridge at Station Creek in the Vaughan Valley, which is to do with some health and safety issues, and obviously there's a report provided later on in the council around the Southland District Council's perspective with part of that. So that is just a proposal. The Trust now needs to sit and look at funding and obviously stakeholder engagement and actually working through how we do that. Still quite a bit of work to be done with that there. In our medium term, we're looking at investigating trail realignment between the Mavora Lakes and the Centre Hill Shelter, and obviously EV charging sites for e-bikes will be incredibly important for us moving forward. Long term, there's no figure on that in terms of years, but we certainly are very aware around accommodation at Mavora Lakes. It's a very long stint between cyclists starting at Walter Peak and the next, if they're not an independent cyclist, to pitch a tent at Mavora. It's a long capacity there looking for accommodation. So that is our long-term focus. So, yeah, that is me. Just quickly before I open to questions, I'd just like to make a couple of acknowledgements. One is to, my rudely didn't introduce, is to Susan McKenzie as Trail Manager, who's employed by Southland District Council. She does a fantastic job. She is beholden to a couple of masters, including the Chair of the Trust as well as Southland District Council. So we're very appreciative for the support that Southland District Council does in allowing Susan to work with us with the Trust. Her reputation in the community and the work that she's done with the Trust is absolutely gold, and you should be really proud of the work that she does. I'd also like to acknowledge Councillor Menzies, who I'm not sure if she's online or not. She works tirelessly on the Trust representing the Southland District Council. We're a robust working trust, and as well as the Southland District Council operational teams, communications teams, property teams, policy and process. We have a really good working relationship. We'd like to continue that. We're really looking forward in the positivity that this trail has for the region.
Thank you very much. And I think what this whole presentation has just highlighted to me is the good decision that was made in establishing this trust in the first place. And I'd like to thank you on behalf of Council for the excellent work that's clearly being done, and it's paying dividends. Looking at those figures in that graph, and you look at the 1920 season compared to the current season, I mean, that's a huge increase, and it just seems to be going from strength to strength. So, yeah, no, thank you very much for the work that you're doing as a trust as well. Are there any questions from the floor?
Yes. Thank you, through your worship. If I may, you mentioned we have 38 partners in the trail. Have you undertaken, or is there plans in the work to undertake some sort of economic survey of those partners to see what sort of return on investment are we actually getting? Because I see the overall figures, but they are for all the cycle trails combined. Have we a location-specific survey in the works?
Through you, worship. Are you asking around an economic impact assessment on the
yes,
trail?
especially on the 38 partners that we do have we?
The 38 partners that we have for the official partner program are cafes and accommodation providers. Yeah. So we get some specific information monthly around the economic impact for the region that comes through monthly, which is split out by the numbers that are actually completing the survey for our specific trail. So we do have some data around that, but the robustness with that is that the higher the numbers are of people completing the survey, the more granular information we can get in terms of what they're spending within the region, what services they're using. So we do already have that information split out for our trail that we can look at, and I could look to put that together for you for specifically if you would like to see that as a...
Through your worship, do you mean those surveys are being completed by people who are frequenting those positions? We are not individually asking the owners of those partners per se?
Through your worship, that's correct. So the survey participants are people that are completing the trail, the bike riders. We are not through the official partners as such. So we have a relationship. Susan is the key conduit for those official partners, and there's 38 of them. We quite often have conversations, more anecdotal chats with them about how things are going for them. The annual about June, so the official partner program is only for 12 months. So every year we're in contact with them more often than not, but every year we check in with them, would they like to continue on the program for the following year, and we get key information and drivers from them more anecdotally. So the surveying is not of the official partners, it's of the people completing the trail.
So we don't have any such thing in the works, Nick, do we? I mean, I would have thought that would be logical to get in, since we are, as you say, anecdotally we're in touch with the project, to have something more concrete. Just 38 in that case respondents instead of, I don't know, a few thousand otherwise. No such plans to do economic analysis there?
We could look to do something a bit more robustly, but in the last 2 years, no, we haven't focused on looking at that and from an economic.
If you do something, I'd be very interested.
Just through you, Your Worship, just to add, in terms of the Official Partnership Program, what the businesses benefit from is really the marketing and the advertising. So the program consists of being on the brochure and map and our website really to promote their business, and that's how we partner with them on the trail. And they're also involved in our community meetings and any initiatives that we have on the trail as well.
My focus was just, this has cost quite a few $1 million to be able to tell ratepayers exactly what we're getting back. Some sort of analysis of those 38 partners would really fit the picture. Thank you.
Just some extra information there is a cost to be a partner as well, so
Yeah.
the businesses do pay. Any further questions, Councillor Wilson?
Excuse me. Just looking at some of the data as far as the trail counters, I noticed that there was just the one trail counter over the Oredi segment, the Oredi Bridge. Is that the only trail counter in the grade 3 part of the trail?
Yes.
And then as far as how that data relates to the rest of the number counters, is that quite a highly used part of the trail? Because I understand that's where the grade 3 becomes more of the road versus being the actual trail itself. So is that part of the road as heavily used as the grade 2 parts?
The Kennett brothers did a study on each of the great rides and developed formulas based on use of the sections of the trail. So each section of the trail where the counter lies has its own formula in terms of calculating the number of people who use that area. Because if you can imagine, there are some people who will start and go all the way around, so they'll tick through 5 counters, and there are other people who will go back and forward or just do little sections. So it's really quite tricky to calculate, but we have, that's why an independent report analysis was done by them. And now we have the formula, which we can put the counter numbers into, and that comes out with the total numbers.
What about as far as specific numbers from people coming to the start of the track at Walter Peak, as far as passenger numbers with bikes coming on boat transfer to start the trail? Is there a specific data around that? That seems something really easy to collate, maybe.
That would be working with the commercial partners that bring them across and understanding whether they would be wanting to share that data and stats. Yeah, there's 2 providers one that can go to Mount Nicholas and one that can go to Walter Peak.
Would you say it's valuable to try and ascertain that information as well?
Through Your Worship, they are official partners on part of our program, so it could be something that we could socialise with them. It would be at their discretion.
Councillor O'Brien?
Firstly, I'd just like to acknowledge Sue's work as well. I know that this whole asset, or this entity, has had a fairly colourful history, and Sue inherited part of that colourful history. And so well done to you, Sue. I've seen you out and about with people in the community. I've seen you out on the trail. I've seen you interacting. And you've done a lot of survey work, and advertising and marketing, and trying to validate that market is really important, so well done in that respect. Could probably argue that based on the increases in those figures with numbers and revenue, a lot of that would be attributed to the fact that it went from a heartland ride to a great ride, and that was probably quite a difficult process to get over the line. Is that the case?
It's always maintained the great ride status.
Right,
Yeah.
but to get it officially as a great ride, that had only just come through relatively recently, like officially. It was always, in the early days, it was going to be a heartland ride, and that was one of the dangers associated with being able to get that coverage through the Naharanga Trails Trust, was my understanding.
My understanding is that it was given the great ride status, and but through history there was a risk of it possibly losing that, but it hasn't,
Yep.
and it's been maintained, which has meant that we're able to keep in with our membership with Naharanga and have all those benefits. Yeah.
So, and just to address Councillor Bapari's questions around, once again, sort of validating, you know, those 38 odd official partners, can you access that information via, say, the Great Rides app and through the trustee, Gary Patterson, of the Naharanga Trails Trust? Are you able to gather that information? Because every person who goes on that Great Rides app uses those things, uses those cafes, uses those toilets, uses those facilities. So is there a room there to glean that information through that to answer Bopari's question?
Through you, Your Worship. That's actually an opportunity that each official partner can elect to go on Gary's Great Rides app or not, and he's actually working with us as part of the program. So not all of our official partners may be on that Great Rides app. We work very closely, and Susan works very closely with Gary, and we offer an opportunity, because there is a financial contribution that these businesses need to make to be an official partner, but that obviously allows them to have, and it's at, again, Gary's discretion around whether that then allows them to have a reduction or an opportunity to be part of his app as well. So that is all at the discretion of the particular activities or official partners that are around. So we can always look at that information and pull that together, but again, it's people can elect to be part of that program. They can be elect to be on it for a year and come off, or they can be on it consistently. We generally have the similar amount of numbers of official partners every season. Some will drop off and other new ones come on. So there's always movement, but the number has been reasonably steady over the period of time that program's been in. We also work very closely with other trails that have official partner programs as well. They all give them certainly different names and have different benefits for being part of that, and so we work really closely to see what they're doing in other regions about how we can use those opportunities. But essentially, an official partner, their process for being, or the opportunity for them to be part of that is the wider reaching marketing and promotion that we can then do under the New Zealand Cycle Trails umbrella, but then also what we as a trust need to do in increasing our reach in terms of our website, Facebook, social media, working with Tourism New Zealand, our RTOs, because if they're an official partner, they then are elevated through those marketing channels as well, which is elevating their business. So there's economies of scale in terms of their marketing budgets that they may not be able to have afforded themselves as a small business.
Thank you, Nick. Final question from Councillor Ravenclaw.
Okay, thanks for your presentation today. Just got a question. I'm just looking at the website on your day ride and the accessible day ride options, and the Queenstown Cycle Tour companies can help find the right one for you. Do we work with any partners in Southland? Like we do?
Through you, Your Worship. We have one Southland-based official partner and tour provider who's based in Te Anau. But remember, our trail starts at Walter Peak, so there is a crossover between the QLDC and the SDC area. And again, official partners can be anybody. So we actually have providers out of Christchurch that provide tours around a number of different great rides. So there's actually benefit in terms of having that wider reach. However, first and foremost, we would like to absolutely support our Southland-based businesses, but there has to be those Southland-based businesses there for us to support. So there's that beautiful cycle there about how we elevate the numbers to come into using our trails and making those business opportunities and strengthening that for our Southland-based businesses to see those opportunities. But it's not a regional official partner program, it's an official partner program that anyone that is providing any activity or tour or itinerary opportunity can be part of.
So going back to your accommodation at Mavora, so when you look at the data that you provided, 3 nights staying, are they staying in our region or are they going back to Queenstown? Is there any data behind that?
There's a combination of them staying through our region. So some providers will take them through to Te Anau and they stay there for the night, and then they come back and start at Centre Hill and carry on. Some go through to Mosman and stay there for the night. So it depends on the particular tour operator that they're using, what that itinerary looks like. Depends on the value of the itinerary in terms of the level of accommodation that they may be doing as well. So there's 2 options. Well, there's actually more than that, but you can have a what we call pay for a package, your bags are picked up, you just do your biking, you just get dropped at your accommodation, and all of your meals and everything is catered for with a company, or you can do it independently where you just jump on your bike and you start and you've booked your own accommodation. So there's a myriad of different ways of doing the trail, and that's the beauty of them, is it allows anybody to do that. So it comes back to the operator and what their itinerary, what they're offering, and the price level that they're offering that at.
So that accommodation at Mahura, that gap would fill more people staying in Southland?
They would be staying in Southland anyway. What it would allow is the opportunity for what we call a more free, independent people that are doing the trail on their own accord without having a provider to obviously take their bags and those sorts of things. At the moment, people do that, and they are called bike packing. They have everything on their bike, including their tent, and they will stay there. That level of comfort depends on what type of accommodation you like. So there's also a bit of an acknowledgement that the distance between Walter Peak and the next EV charge for your e-bike, we're at the almost maximum capacity in terms of kilometre distance as well. So being able to get somewhere to charge your bike for the next day is also important too. So that accommodation in Mavura would be twofold. One, operators would be able to utilise that, but also would allow those free and independent. But that is private commercial investment as well as a number of different things for that to happen. What we're saying as a trust is that we're acknowledging that that will be a huge benefit, but that will be something that will take a multitude of stakeholders and funding to look at. We can only about help offer and entice the presentation and the investment that may make for our region and for the economic benefit for somebody who may want to look at that.
Well, thank you very much for that, Nick and Susan, and thank you once again for the great work that you do. But I'll move from the chair that we received the report, and thank you for the update. So is there a second to that motion? The bylaws, all in favour? Hopefully no one's against. I declare that carried. Thank you very much once again. That moves us on to item 7.3, which is on page 11 of your agenda. And I'll welcome Catherine, Jess and Jenna up to the table for the Active Southland District Council holiday programme.
So just to kick this one off, I'll start and welcome the ladies here to speak on behalf of Active Southland. Just in terms of the delivery of the holiday program, which happened in January 2023, as those elected members that were here in the previous triennium, you will remember that the program was reduced in size in areas which we could cover during COVID, and so it's a great pleasure to be able to have this year been able to broaden that back out to more of the towns within the district. So that's the first thing. The second thing is just would like to explain for the reason why this happened in January, and normally we would report in the first quarter of the year. This paper has been ready to go, however, just because of the really busy schedules and the timetable for elected members, we've had to delay this. So just want to make it clear that it wasn't Active Southland or the team that have not been able to fit this in. It was more a requirement or a restriction on the volume of work that you guys have been trying to get through over the last few months. So we now have been able to align all the calendars, and pleased to have this update in front of you. So apologies for it not happening the first quarter, but it is here now. So to the ladies.
Yeah. Good morning, Your Worship and councillors. I don't really have too much to say, but just thanks to Active Southland again for providing a great program, and just like to introduce Jess Domigan and Jenna Shepherd. So I'm just going to pass over to them, and they're going to chat to you and give you all the information.
Thank you. Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Jess Domigan toko ingoa. I'm the General Manager at Active Southland, and it's a pleasure to be back to talk to you again around the holiday program. Since we were here maybe 15 months ago speaking about the holiday program before, we're really pleased to let you know that the reach that we're having into your district has grown significantly through our different programs, whether it be health through green prescription, toko oranga, healthy active learning programs into schools. We're actually able to service the whole region now, which I'm sure you'll be pleased to hear. We're absolutely delighted to be able to be doing that. Active Southland exists to enhance individual and community wellbeing, and the vehicle that we obviously are promoting and supporting is physical activity. For us, that could be play, active rec or sport, or any way that anyone wants to be moving. So that's our purpose and what we are all about. We're delighted to partner with you again to deliver your holiday program. And as Jenna will talk about, it has been a great success to get back out to the regions post-COVID. We've have the report with you, and we'll take that as read. But we had some successes and some of the story to tell you of how that went and the feedback we have had from the community. I'd like to acknowledge and thank Paul for your support in helping us to bring this to life. And I'll hand over to Jenna.
Kia ora koutou katoa. Ko Jenna Tuka Ingoa. So I am the Southland District Regional Activator at Active Southland. My mahi involves activating open spaces in partnership with Southland District Council and the Open Spaces Strategy, and gaining insights for communities around the open spaces and reporting to community boards, creating activations in those open spaces to increase physical activity. As part of my mahi, I organise and run the Southland District Council holiday program. I also live in rural Southland in the township of Nightcaps, and I have 2 primary age children and understand the barriers to participation for tamariki and the importance of quality programs being available in our rural communities. What a blast the 2023 program was. We had over 200 kids across the Southland District participate in the program. I was supported by the Active Southland Healthy Active Learning team to deliver the program. The cost was $6 for each tamariki to make it affordable for whānau, and was available for tamariki aged between 5 and 12 years old. We offered free transport from neighbouring communities to attend to break down the travel barrier. However, this service was not used. We offered the program in Wyndham, Tokanui, Te Anau, Lumsden, Rekiora, Riverton, Winton and Otautau. So numbers varied, but the enthusiasm did not. We only had 2 registrations for Tokanui, so we communicated with the whānau and explained there are low numbers. We sent a voucher for Jump and Fun and also a petrol voucher. So the structure of the event, so tamariki were welcome. They were put into groups with other kids their own age and assigned a teacher from our Healthy Active Learning team as their support person on the day. We did Mickey's Mouse Exercise, a gentle warm-up led by Mickey, Donald and Goofy. Tamariki completed 2 activities in the morning, had lunch and 2 activities in the afternoon. There was also a variety of activities, so no day was the same. So if tamariki attended more than one day, which some did, they were not bored. We engaged with regional sports organisations, local and cultural groups. It was awesome to take the town sports to our rural communities so they can have a taste of sports that not always accessible to them, the drama and the cultural activities. So our marketing, we sent out a Save the Date pānui to schools for their school newsletters in October of 2022. The official pānui for registrations was sent out in November. We held registrations open right throughout the program so that people can enrol on the day if they hadn't done so earlier. We provided lunch to our providers. It was all locally sourced from our 4 squares and local cafes with awesome feedback and gratitude. And the food was phenomenal, so if you ever need, use your 4 squares. They've got some fantastic food. So on our locations, there was obviously high numbers in our populated areas. We originally had very low numbers on Rekiora with only 7 registrations a week out from delivery. But after posting on Facebook and having some local connects, we had over 20 tamariki attend, which was really pleasing. And we had Lumsden and Te Anau have registrations on the day. So, as mentioned, no 2 days were the same. Tamariki really engaged with dance and drama, and it was led by Travis Luke and Billy Skur, who are dance teachers. It was delivered games-based, which was really fun for all and very inclusive. We had various regional sports organisations involved each day, and we held a cultural aspect. So Ngāketi Pounamu Charitable Trust delivered from their Korari Māori Health team. They came to Otautau and Riverton to do kimu, and their tautuku was extremely appreciated. We also had Materia Light, our cultural advisor at Active Southland, deliver poi making and games on the other days. We also incorporated free play, where we had the playla and tamariki use this to engage with each other. Some highlights. Tamariki were amazing at all the locations. It was so nice to meet the people of the communities. They were enthusiastic and excited after a long holiday. On arrival, some were really reserved and still held on to their cuddlies for support. But after the warm-up and the day went on, they were in the elements, and it was cool to see their confidence grow. In Lumsden, the Tamariki, they were just really excited to see each other, and in the afternoon we kind of threw the program out the window because they just wanted to play in the playla and talk to each other in their wee groups, and we went and bought some ice creams and they made an ice cream cart out of it. On the Raki Ora, the Foursquare gave us free ice blocks for the Tamariki because it was so hot, so that was really cool to have that community engagement. Also, in Riverton, they really enjoyed Ngākiti delivering the kimu, and they've invited them back to the school. So it was really cool to have that connect and really rewarding to see. In Winton, Wendy Frew, the retired steel captain, she gave away 10 of her netballs, so that was awesome to the kids as well. The feedback's been amazing, and a lot of it was what a great way to spend money for our kids to bring this out rurally. And the weather was fabulous. The kids did say it was too hot, but that was something we couldn't control. So that was just a few highlights. We're very passionate about delivering a high-quality program to give tamariki opportunities to participate and break down any barriers as possible and reflect on the program to make it more valuable each year.
Thanks, Gina. We look forward to continue to look at how we can ensure we are adding value to your program, increasing your visibility in the community, better understanding of the community needs, strengths and opportunities to engage, participate and contribute to our future holiday program. Finally, I want to thank the wider Southland District Council team who we work alongside. We really appreciate the growing relationships across play, active rec, sport, spaces and places, and relish the opportunity to continue to develop partnerships to support those living in the Southland District to improve their wellbeing through being active and connected in their own community. Thank you, and are there any questions?
Yeah, thank you very much. And I think the importance, given the challenges around a geographic spread of keeping that local flavour in there and seeing the contribution to the local businesses is great. So yeah, well done on the great work. Do we have any questions from the floor? Councillor Byers.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just active, getting people, the children, Tamariki active. It's great, good work that you're doing there. You mentioned a couple of times giving the children ice creams. I'm wondering how that, the sugar relates to the healthy lifestyles.
Lemonade. So they just said, and it was so hot. Like I think in Wyndham we were like 32 degrees. So it was just something also, because if they haven't, they also brought their own lunches just to keep them a boost for the day as well. And same in London, it was a really hot summer, like those 2 weeks, ridiculous. Yeah.
We have thought about how we can include some of the local pools next time, if it is that hot, the swimming pools, as another option to cool them down. I guess it's about balance as well.
A bit cagey around providing sugar for children. It's just a comment. Thank you.
Councillor Fraser.
I'm sure there's good sugar-free ice cream options in ice blocks. My wife buys them all the time. Apparently I need to eat them more. But just wondering about how this program connects in with the rest of the work you're doing, Gemma, and has that created some linkages and some follow-on connection to kind of expand and connect?
Absolutely, and I think that was part of Tamariki and whānau and them being raising, because my job is reasonably new, raising awareness within the open spaces, what I actually do and how we could support their open spaces to be more active, and putting a face to the name. So that connect has been amazing, getting around and meeting people I probably wouldn't usually meet unless I was at a school engagement, but then you don't get the parents there. So it was great building that relationships within activating open spaces.
Is there any example of something that's putting on the spot, but
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we, even on like Raki Ora, I didn't realise there was 3 parents I went to school with. So that was really cool to make that connect and hearing their voices about what they would like to see over on the island. That was really cool. And over in Lumsden, actually getting my name, I've had some quite interesting conversations up in that area as well. Yeah, of things that they, and ideas. Yeah.
thank you.
Councillor Keast.
Thank you. Thank you for your report. And yeah, it sounds like it was, well, it always helps when it's great, but yeah, almost the other way, the kids got too hot. It was very disappointing to see that Tokanui wasn't that well subscribed to, and I do wonder if the advertising wasn't early on, wasn't as powerful as it could be, because the school newsletter is now predominantly online. It goes out once a month, I think it is, in hard format, but yeah, it is that snapshot in time of or the chance when you're actually advertising. Yeah, but looking, if there isn't the volume of children there that are participating, it does look like Tuatapere might miss out a little bit. So maybe you could swap over that way.
Yeah, and we did think of like maybe mixing the locations up and then coming back to the next ones every second year. So you're actually getting a broader scope of getting to different areas as well. Like even Riversdale would be quite nice to be up in there as well. And to be one place that I thought of. We did also go to the school and ask them about Tokanui, just to see if there was any barriers there. So we discussed that with them, and I've spoken to a couple of locals as well, and they thought maybe it's the wrong time of year with people away. Being the farming community. So, yeah, we did look into that, so we'll definitely continue to push it.
Councillor Duffy.
Oh, you were so further on that, so you haven't given up on Tokanui, we'll just try other ways.
Yeah.
The actions you took on Rakiura, has that been tried in the Tokanui area, the Facebook and...
Yeah, putting it out on Facebook, yeah.
I'd say there'd be other people happy to help you promote it.
And I think that's it, finding those local people that people see them and having them put it up for us and repost for us, and I think that gets a better connection. That seemed to what happened on Rakiura was having that local connect, and that was really well received.
No further questions from the floor? I think just this item and the previous item as well just shows the strength in collaborating with different partners outside and working together to make Southland better. So yeah, thank you once again for the great work that you do, and someone in a position to move that we receive that report. Councillor Graney, seconder, Councillor Fraser, all in favour? Aye. That's carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Kia ora.
So we've got 7.6 now, just moving a little bit. So we've got the around the amount of this unbudgeted expenditure, which is on page 73 of your agenda.
Yeah. I just want to come to council to discuss a project that we're doing for health and safety reasons for the cycle trail. So it's been great to have Nick discuss how well the cycle trail is doing with our numbers and improvements that need to be done in terms of cycle safety, especially through the Rod Valley. So the project is in two parts. Phase one is a shelter and toilet at the Gorge Burn, which is within the Southland District Council. And then we were looking at phase two, which Nick outlined, was in terms of looking at a bridge at Station Creek. So what the unbudgeted expenditure report is about is really, I have the money within the different budgets, but because we're going slightly out of that and getting funding through from MB, I just need to come to council to ask that it's okay that we spend the additional money that we get from MB. So that's for us to complete the project of the toilet and the shelter at the Gorge Burn and the proposed engineering report for Station Creek.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Susan?
So I'm just wondering what the split of the 25,530 between the two projects actually is. And I've noted that the Gorge Burn shelter is within the Southland region, whereas Station Creek, because it's actually within Otago segment of the trail. So just wondering, being prudent, just what the split of that project may be.
Sure. So the engineering report is 4,320, and so the shelter and toilet makes up the remaining of that. So it's because the engineering report is just that. It's just someone to go review the bridge, how much that project would cost, so then the trust can go out and then seek funding from different partners.
And is this bridge purely this is a cycle bridge?
Yes, it'd be 1.5 metres wide.
Any further questions?
Through your worship, I just want to bear in my mind as well, because I had a community board meeting on Monday around this, where community boards were asked to comment about the resource consent application. It's obviously been signed off by Hudson's, who are the affected parties, so they're happy with that. Now there was no comment around, well, there were no questions around the resource consent. I just want to clear in my mind that the total estimated cost of installing a shelter and toilet and an engineering proposal for the bridge at Station Creek is $46,100. Do we know what? Because that's probably going to go ahead. The shelter and the toilet is going to go ahead. Do we actually know what the total cost of that is? So is the engineering proposal included in that 46,000 or separate?
Yes, so that was a similar question. So the engineering report itself is just 4,320. Yeah, and the shelter, we're looking at 30,830 for the shelter and 11,000 for the toilet.
Okay, and the other question I have around this is in terms of maintenance. I can understand that the shelter will probably have minimal maintenance, but with regards to the toilet, is the Southland District Council going to be charged with maintaining that toilet?
Yes, they would, and it really wouldn't be a problem. We've already got toilets along the trail that it would just add into their schedule. So we have South Roads who come and they clean the toilets regularly, and we suction them out as required.
Cool, there's no further questions. I'll go to the recommendations. So recommendation D, approving the unbudgeted expenditure of 25,530 to engage an engineer for the purpose of undertaking an engineer's report for a bridge at Station Creek and to install a shelter and toilet at Gorge Burn on the Around the Mountain Cycle Trail, and agree that the unbudgeted expenditure to be funded 7575 by grant approved by MB and 12455 from the Around the Mountain Reserve, with the remaining funded from MB. Do we have someone in the position? Oh, sorry, and we've got F as well. Approving the expenditure of 9494 to clear trees from the cycle trail due to the winds and August, funded through MB as well. Is there someone in a position to move those recommendations? Councillor Keast, do we have a seconder? Councillor Spraggan. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Anyone against? Thank you, Susan. All right. 7.4, we've got the minor amendment to the Stewart Island Rahura visitor levy policy to reflect council's governance structure.
Morning, Your Worship and Councillors. As you'll be aware, this report is about proposing the minor amendment to the Stewart Island Rahura visitor levy policy. So changes have been marked up in the draft policy so that the policy aligns to council's new governance structure, namely the removal of the Community and Strategy Committee. Amendments have also been proposed so the policy reflects what's already been adopted in the delegations manual. This includes updating the chair of the allocation subcommittee and updating the reporting line of the subcommittee. And changes to the reporting line of the subcommittee were made after the 2019 representation review. So it's proposed that council adopt the amended policy with this report, and the set of recommendations for this matter are outlined on page 18 of the agenda.
Are there any questions? There being no questions, is someone in a position to move? Councillor Vaporai and Councillor...
Sorry, mate. Question through you, Worship. Throughout the report, I noticed that there was, with regards to the visitor levy, that tradespeople were... it's my understanding that if tradespeople were on the island for greater than 3 weeks, they were exempt from the levy, but if they're not, then they would have to pay a levy to go to and from the island. And I just wondered, you know, tradespeople, it's very seldom, unless it's a commercial operation, that tradespeople will be in any one particular spot for that period of time. And I just wondered about how fair that was for tradespeople, especially since they're part of the machine to make improvements to the island. If there was any comment around that.
So, through your worship, probably on the scope of today, but I'd have to reflect back and see whether that's actually outlined in the Empowering Act, because there was quite a lot of discussion around that. I remember reading some of the original stuff in 2012, and Mr. Spraggan may recall that I think it was talked about at the time. And again, I don't know if that would require a legislative change or if that's something we could just alter in. So I'd have to go and check that. But beyond the scope of today.
For a year, well, as you said, but it's not a problem anyway, because the tradesperson simply adds the costs of getting to the island onto their fees for being on the island. So it's, it's accepted. Yeah.
Thank you. So I'll move that and all in favour of those, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? That's carried. Thank you. All right, 7.5 on the agenda on page 39, we have the bridge weight, I'm tongue-tied today, bridge weight restriction postings. And Hartley and WSP at the table as well.
Good morning, Your Worship, councillors. I'll maybe do a quick introduction for those that know. I've got Ian Sutherland from WSP. So Ian's position is structures inspection engineer for the contract with Southland District around our bridge inspections. So some of you may know Ian from attending report. So hopefully any questions, Ian can address those. But I'll take the report as read. We'll cover off a few points and summarise aspects of the report. The purpose of the report is to comply with the Transport Act and Heavy Vehicle Regulations, and as an RCA or Road Controlling Authority, we need to confirm as a minimum annually any posting as necessary for bridges on our roading network, and also revoke any restrictions that may no longer apply because we've done upgrade or replacement work. As mentioned, WSP have been engaged by Council to undertake the condition inspections of the bridges with load and speed restrictions within the district. The inspections have been undertaken in accordance with Waka Kotahi NZ Transport Agency policy and described as a special inspection. There's different levels of inspection, but for these they class as special inspections. Some more context on that: the special inspections of the bridges include visual inspection and look at components of the bridge, such as the superstructure, so deck and main beam, substructure, those are the abutment walls, bearers and poles, and then also look at any measurements that may be required. In some cases, there's also drilling that's undertaken of the wooden components, and that's just checking for decay. As you can appreciate, don't want to drill too many holes either, but it's where issues of concern may be identified and to sort of confirm whether they exist or not, and also capturing any photographic evidence and record keeping that can be used in future years. Along with the posted, or in total, there was 350 bridges inspected across our network since the last report over the last 12 months. As sort of previously touched on, we continue inspecting bridges across the network. The posted bridges are also evaluated to confirm the post and weight limits. 8 bridges required changes to their postings. 3 of those postings increased as a result of strengthening work that we carried out between or from 3rd of June last year. And subsequently, there's a total of 61 bridges going forward that will remain posted. In all cases, the weight restrictions that have been set are to provide a balance between safety and limiting the damage to the structures, as well as setting reasonable limits for the type of vehicles using those bridges. On that basis, the report recommends that Council, that these bridge limits be adopted. Happy to take any questions. I'll leave it there and take any questions or
Amy, do we have any questions? Councillor Byers.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Ian Hartley. I'm just wondering if you saw the discussion around the Channel Road Bridge. No, not the Channel Road. What was the bridge? Riverside Road. And some local farmers went in and inspected it and decided for themselves that it wasn't actually that badly damaged. Did you see that discussion, Ian?
Yes, I read that on the newspaper, yes. Yeah.
Would you like to comment on?
I get that feedback a lot, from not just farmers, just people, lay people that see structures, and the biggest issue with that bridge in particular is a pile that is mostly not there, effectively. This inspection this year was a really good opportunity to look at that pile in real detail because of the low water levels. So there was only this much water at the bottom of the pile. And so that highlighted the issue with that pile. So that's a very significant part of the structure, and hence the decision to make the call to light vehicles only. I suppose we've people like myself have got qualifications to look at these structures and make these calls. One of the things that lay people may not understand is where we look at the existing structures and new structures, that we actually have to have a factor of safety. And that I've said this to Hartley many times, that we want to keep that factor of safety. The council wants to keep that factor of safety because overloaded vehicles potentially go over there. And we need to have that factor of safety because they don't know that there's only this much left before the bridge collapses.
Thank you. Councillor Kingston.
Thank you, Worship. A couple of questions, if I may. One, what would the impact be if we didn't take the pragmatic approach of central on bridge looking at? What would be the impact on our bridges?
So the reason for central on bridge is to do with the deck capacity. So if the vehicle is travelling to an extreme left or an extreme right, there's an overhang of the deck over the main beams, and so that's why the requirement for central on bridge. It's not an onerous thing to request on these single lane bridges, as you will find that just about every vehicle is central on the bridge just because it's only 4.2 metres wide. But it's an I to dot and a T to cross, that we go central down the bridge, then we can handle the deck capacity. Yeah.
So in the report, the comment was around that this is not something that's used other places. This is a pragmatic approach that we've made, and I'm just wondering what do others do? That are reporting on bridge or posting bridges.
Yeah, purely as you say, it's been one of those decisions that's a pragmatic approach to not restrict the weight of the bridge, the loading on the bridge because of the deck strength. If we follow the letter of the law of the bridge manual, in that case, we would have to reduce the posting of the bridge because of the deck.
Yes, yeah.
And it's a little bit.
We're enabling
Exactly.
bridges with a lot less.
Absolutely, it enables a higher load to go across the bridge by having that requirement.
So my second question would be around the communication of these postings. I would really like to see a much bigger or greater effort to actually engage with the local communities to really hammer home the fact that if this bridge isn't looked after, this is what may, like the potential is there, so that people are aware, and that may take quite a lot of effort, but I think that it is worth it in the long run. It's an investment we need to make so that our communities are well aware of the potential. I don't know whether that you've got that plan in hand, Hartley. I think I've said to you, to try different signs about that aren't legal, but would be thought promoting, like, hey, are you sure you're supposed to be here if you're this big, if you're over this high? not sure that you can ride this bridge sort of thing, you know, like just to make it and move those signs around so that people, you know, like they don't get used to them, but they make them think about the bridge that's coming up ahead of them. So I don't know whether you've incorporated that into your plan yet, communication plan.
Through your, no, but to your point, it's around, I suppose, generating that pause moment, and we've seen it around some work sites, trying to get that or tie to the emotional aspect of it, I suppose, as opposed necessarily to the legislative, but it's work in progress. Yeah.
Well, I think further to that question as well, and I know we've sort of talked about it in the past, but like, is there the opportunity to put sort of selected cameras up in some of these bridges to sort of, I guess, even for us to see that there is behaviour that's not in line with the restrictions?
So, it's something we're looking at, but we have to look at it in terms of the surveillance or the policy that council has adopted. So we're just working through that at the moment to understand what we can or can't do. And then, because one of the aspects around that is actually having signage up to advise that the area is under surveillance. And so do we have, say, multiple bridges that are signed, but then a mobile camera that you'd actually shift around so it's not there permanently. So yeah, it is something it's under investigation at the moment, but it's just that policy side that we...
Because that sign in itself could act as a deterrent if they may be caught on camera, so that might actually deter some of the behaviour.
Because it is something we have done in the past, but it's just linking up with the policy that council's adopted, that we're not breaching our own policy around that.
Yeah, thank you. And I would hope that we're investigating more modern technology that may help us with the gantry problem where, you know, like there's people have to put in a pass or have to, number plate recognition would be the ideal, that actually allows people to go through. We would have to give the locals the ability to say who was going to come on and off, but I mean, that's responsibility that they would have to, it couldn't work on a main thoroughfare, but for those smaller roads where people, you know, that's their livelihood that people are taking into their hands, it would be, to me, it would seem like the number of times that we replace the gantry or to work on the Channel Ridge Bridge Road would seem like we could weigh off the cost of doing that, particularly if it was, we could, you know, like move it around. I'd like to see that happen.
Yes, some inquiries I made a year or two ago about the Waituna Bridge. I sort of learnt that it's not all simple, there's rather complicated equations over axle loadings and all kinds of things when you actually ask the question of what can actually go over and what can't. And I just wonder if we should be promoting some examples of what is, for the layman, just what is acceptable. And I wonder if we're like tractors with silage wagons on the back fit into that sort of thing. I just wonder if putting up a posting's fine, but we don't really explain what it really means. And I haven't got a truck, so I wouldn't have a clue, but I think it is a bit...
It is a complicated calculation. It's all to do with the overall weight of the vehicle and then the spacings of their axles and the weight on the individual axles. So every vehicle can be different. And that's what becomes the complicating factor. The driver of that vehicle should understand what their load is. That they all do is another question.
Tractors and silage don't.
Yeah, because the signage would be very, very, very complicated to explain.
I just wonder if we publicise some examples. Probably no one would read, but still.
Through what we do with some of, you'll see in the posting, with some of the bridges is actually identifying maximum loadings in instances where it's appropriate to try and help mitigate some of that. So it doesn't matter what your configuration is, there's still a maximum.
Councillor Chamberlain?
Yeah, through you, I'm not sure if this is the right place, but just wondering whether some of these bridges, I know the one on the wee bridge on that Riverside Road, whether some of these bridges, I'm not sure what the deal is with putting, replacing these bridges with culverts, which would seem like a cheaper option and quite an easy fix. Is that sort of been looked at, or what's the process of that?
I guess that would be a part of assessing when the bridge comes to that point on what a fit for purpose replacement would be.
That's correct, Your Worship. And we've replaced in the past, within the last 2-3 years, we have actually replaced some bridges with large diameter culverts. They do often require resource consent because you're generally increasing the capacity of it. But we have done that and we'll continue to do that if it's possible.
When I was up at Dipton with the Lindsays, the new bridge was put on McDonald Road, that a lot of access to that creek on the farm side is all culverts. And, there was a bridge that's supposed to be cost a couple $100,000 to build that could have been, you could have done that one and the Riverside Road one with culverts and still been under the 200,000 sort of thing.
I guess each one would be looked at on a case-by-case basis, but I think the main answer is that it does get looked at, so yeah, that covers.
Yeah, but just with the Donald Road Bridge could have been a classic example that a culvert could have been put in there, I think.
Yeah, without knowing the details around that, but yeah, I think looking forwards, that is an option that we can explore, so I think that's Councillor Ravenclaw.
Well, thanks for your report. My question, like an inspection annually, is that enough? Like when we 2 weeks ago came to a table to make a decision around 2 bridges, being when not enough time to engage with the community, was there an opportunity to fix that bridge earlier before it got to that stage? Once a year, is it enough?
It's particularly on a bridge by bridge basis, like if the bridge is in maybe a precarious state where we really need to keep an eye on it, you can inspect more regularly, but currently annually is sufficient. I suppose you're talking more around the timing of when the issue is highlighted. So we've been carrying out these inspections during summer and after Christmas annually, and that's the time that we've chosen. But there's no reason why that couldn't be changed to be a different time of the year. I'm not sure if it would. You still have to make a decision very quickly. That would potentially, when a serious issue like the Riverside School came up, because legally the posting has to change, and then there's not a lot of time to do that.
So you've just spoken around bridges that are deteriorating more quickly than others. Do you inspect them more than once annually, or just the one?
At the moment, they're all on an annual. The posted bridges are on an annual inspection regime.
Are there any further questions? Councillor Guest?
I'm wondering if we could add to F on the recommendations so that we are requiring some more innovative thinking about how we actually engage with the communities rather than just what's up there. I'm not 100% sure. No, I haven't yet. Yeah.
Do you want to maybe say and explore options for innovation and education around the community?
That sounds great.
Sorry, could I just suggest that would be G? Because F has a reasonably specific purpose in terms of notifying compliance here. And just for context, reminding council that this is a process by which you're able to keep those bridges open. So it is a reasonably formal process, and I certainly support the for different ways of communicating, but I recommend not diluting.
So you have comfortable with that, Councillor East? Education.
Yeah, I'd probably just like to reiterate what Julie said, because I just don't think it was fair on the Dipton community, or perhaps even Hartley, that he had to come and present in a tricky situation. I just wonder whether the process itself could have been handled a lot better so that we didn't come to that point.
Yeah, I think there's a balancing act between inspect the bridges every week if we can afford to do that, but it's a balancing between how we actually mitigate the time and the expense involved in doing those as well.
Seeing like in section 32, we talk of intention to undertake further invasive inspections of all posted bridges which have areas of concern. So do we have some sort of a list here that these are of concern and where we can start focusing via maybe the community boards in that area or something? Because this might be a matter that might be better moved there if we have a list, like these are the section 32 which you talk of. So if you have a list, we could possibly start doing something there. And, then there would hopefully be less of these unpleasant surprises. You look doubtful, Hartley.
No, it's not doubtful. I suppose the reason why the bridges are posted is because of the position that they're in from a structural point of view. That's why we're posting them in the first place, at the high risk of,
No.
unless I misunderstood the question. So with the issues, and Ian can does the inspection or part of that inspections can comment on it. But it's when you're undertaking the inspections, with say the sounding camera, see if there's any soft spots in any of the structures, obviously specifically related to the timber components, is then actually drilling those components to identify if it's just more a surface or is there actual internal rotting that you can see.
I get that. It was like when Councillor Key spoke about engaging, that maybe if we have a certain list already, that these are the bridges, areas of concern, that might be something that with the community boards, it's just one less level of bureaucracy and that much more awareness there that, look, we have these 2-3 in our region and we better keep a lookout for those ones. They might be more, might be less, bound by all the regulation than we are in terms of engaging with the community.
I think what you're saying is getting the awareness out there as early as possible so that people.
On board. Yes.
Councillor Greening.
I've got a suggested format for your G. So explore additional options for communicating with impacted communities to inform and educate.
Let's go. Okay.
I'm just wondering with your comments on the concept of cameras, the concept of having a list of keep an eye on these bridges and the opportunity for communities to also be aware and potentially monitor and let the council know of any misuse and ignoring of those restrictions, and whether onto G monitoring gets added to that or whether that's a separate resolution.
Yeah, that could sort of form part of the piece if we're putting cameras and stuff up, and obviously the monitoring would intuitively happen. But I think like part of the conversation that I'm hearing as well is the community actually taking ownership of these bridges, because ultimately they do own them, and prolonging the life of them as long as possible so we can get the updates done as well. So I think there's a picture, a role that we can all play inside of this whole challenging situation that we find ourselves in. Councillor O'Brien?
Yeah, through your worship, and probably dovetailing into exactly what you've said in terms of community ownership, but also community responsibility overall, I think is massively important. And, D, I think, outlines that with regards to, I know that if I was to come up to a bridge and I knew that I was heavily overloaded and it had a weight restriction on there, it's a pretty stark reminder to me that I shouldn't be going over that bridge. And I think I do think there should be an element of keeping it simple here, so that if there is a question mark over that bridge, then yeah, sure, a sign that says, this is the weight limit. It's 18 tonne or 18,000 kilograms or whatever it is. If I know that I'm carrying 24,000 kilograms, and I choose to go over that bridge, then the onus is on me. Okay, and I think that's a relatively simple kind of thing to comprehend. So while we can talk about other ways of, letting people know, in my personal opinion, I think it's a pretty easy way to decipher whether you should or shouldn't go over it.
Thank you. Final two questions from Councillor Chamberlain, Councillor Runcorn.
Yeah, through you, Rob. Is there any way of, a lot of the trucks have got GPSs in them, and I'd imagine that a strange transport travelling up Riverside Road, stock and trailer truck, if they go up the road, they can't turn around, so is there any way of loading that information into their GPSs that road has got a restricted weight bridge on it, so they're not travelling that road?
Your Worship, yes, definitely, and we do supply that information to some organisations. On Fonterra as an example, when they're actually looking at the collection program and efficiencies around that, they have GPS or geotagged posted bridges. Open Country is another one that does exactly that. So yeah, we do supply that information, and companies do request that information as well.
Especially if you get a strange transport picking up stock in an area that they don't know.
Yeah, so they are.
Be stuck on a road.
Definitely organisations that we supply that information to.
Councillor Runcorn.
Thank you. Just going back to communication to our communities, when I was looking through the list of posted bridges, would there be any opportunity to put them into the awards? I noted a lot were already, or but I couldn't work out some of those bridges where they were. So if we're going to use our community boards and our own networks, it would be really good to have them blended into Aoriti field, areas, so that we can put them out on our own Facebook pages, our community pages.
Your Worship, we've already got that information. I suppose it's just the format that it's in, and in terms of the format that it has to go into from a newspaper advertising. As the Chief Executive sort of pointed out, some of this is quite legislative driven in the way, in the format that it has to go, so some of that is presented in that format. So we definitely have it in Ward. We also have it on our website. You can actually go onto our website and it highlights on our website which are the posted bridges, and you can zoom in on those too.
Listed by ward.
We've got, in our asset register, we've got it by ward. So it's easiest used.
So I could pick that up and then put it onto.
Yeah, we can supply that quite easily by ward.
Excuse me, through your worship, I think you should be very careful with reducing having a list out in the public that is shorter than the full list of posted bridges. I just see a risk there.
So you would
keep it as the entire posted bridges list for Southland.
That's
just my
break it down into each ward.
As long as the entire list was presented, yes, yeah.
So, Councillor Keast, were you in a position to move all of those, including your new G?
Yes, I've got my new G, thank you very much.
Do we have a seconder for those? Councillor Ravenclaw, all in favour? Is there anyone against? I'll declare that carried. Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Hartley.
Thank you very much.
We'll break for a cup of tea for 15 minutes that we come back.
To distribute. So that amount has actually been topped up by Sport NZ. So if you remember the last round, we had a lot of applications and not a lot of money to give out, and there was a request from this council to approach them for more funding, and actually just as I was about to approach them, they emailed me and said, look, we've decided to give everybody a little bit more funds for this financial year and the next financial year, just acknowledging rising fuel costs, cost of living, all that kind of thing. So they have given us an extra, find the exact amount, they've given us an extra $9,720, and that's in two payments, one for this financial year and one for the next financial year, so an additional $4,860 for this round. So yeah, the 11 applications, the amounts have all been done based on a formula on the K's levelled. So the total amount comes to just under what we've got to give out. So happy to answer any questions on those amounts.
Thank you. Are there any questions at all? Councillor Keith.
Thank you. Just wondering if we got a little bit more context from some of the people who were travelling, like Central Southland College, I think they said 90,000 kilometres.
Yep.
And Rosedale Rugby Club, 79.
Yep. So I have looked at some of those figures, and on their application forms they will indicate, how many members they've got and where they're travelling to, so it does look like a lot of Ks, but when you're travelling, quite a distance for every week of competition, and you've got lots of members in your club, it actually does work out.
Yeah, but then the people, not everybody's doing all those Ks every week.
I mean, I'm not going to be exact in those calculations, but I'm happy with the amounts that they're putting down, and they're never going to get above the capped amount anyway, because the funds are limited.
I guess that's the important point, but yeah. Councillor Ravenclaw.
Through you, just a comment. Very exciting to see that additional funding for travel for children's sport. I just had a conversation last week with the secretary at Dipton School, and they've got a new principal, and she said she'd love me to come and have a chat about what is available. So just for all of us, as a comment, just remember to be promoting these, because some people have got no idea what funding, even though we do advertise, but very exciting.
And just on that, I was having a conversation with Jess Domigan just as they left before, and there is also apparently like funding through them, through the Tū Manawa Fund to assist with transport. So I'm going to catch up with her about that and just make sure that we are connecting and letting people know in our communities what's available to break down those barriers.
Just through me.
Any further questions? Are you in a position to move those, Councillor Russell, Councillor Boatwright? All in favour?
Aye.
Anyone against? Carried, thank you very much. The next item we have on the agenda is 7.8, the District Initiatives Fund allocations, which is on page 87 of your agenda.
Right, so this current round for the District Initiatives Fund, we've received 8 applications. The total amount available for distribution is 24,304, and the requests we received total 27,274. So I'll just quickly run through a summary of the applications. So the first one was from the Cancer Society to support their work in the district for those suffering with cancer and their families. The amount requested was $5,000. Southern Reap wanting assistance towards their SPACE program, which is postnatal support program for parents of small babies, and their request was $9,254. Heritage South for assistance volunteer travel costs for their Southland Oral History project, and it was $750 there. Southland Multicultural Trust, assistance towards costs for their Clued Up Communities program, which they're running in September in conjunction with a few other organisations, and they requested $3,500. Brisbane Community Charitable Trust, assistance with costs for their 2023 Matariki celebrations. The Winton Men's Friendship Club, travel costs for their club choir to travel around the district entertaining in rest homes and senior citizens clubs, and $2,000 was their request. The Northern Southland Community Pool Trust, they are about to undertake a big project to upgrade their heating system and install solar panels there, and they requested $5,000. And lastly, the Invercargill Rock and Roll Club, assistance of $800 towards fundraising at Ascot. Now I'll just have a couple of comments about a couple of those, and then I'll just let you discuss it. The Riverton Community Charitable Trust, now I understand they've also made an application to Creative Communities Fund, and I think that one was declined. Councillor Braden-Claw or Councillor Case may want to comment further on that. Just I think the nature of the application wasn't robust, and they suggested they would defer it to another year. The Invercargill Rock and Roll Club, their fundraising event is to build a new venue here in Invercargill, maybe pushing it to see the benefit for, the district for this fund. I kept it in there just because we have supported them in the past with their fundraising events. The last one we supported them with, they actually ended up giving the money back to us because they couldn't have it because of so I've just kept that in there, but of course you're free to discuss any of those. So I've got my recommendations there, but feel free to discuss any of them or ask any questions.
I think what we might do is just step through each one of them individually, and then we can ask any relevant questions on each one if we're comfortable with that approach. So I'll start with the number one, the Cancer Society of Otago and Southland. So the recommendation of $4,500 out of a requested amount of $5,000. Are there any questions on that one? Or is happy to accept that one?
How about set a precedent
For
them coming every year? Like the Valley
The same as the last district financial.
I just wonder, can these be up on a screen? I don't know how many of us can actually.
Well, most of us have.
I'm juggling 2 computers here this morning, and even I'm having issues, and I'm in the process of trying to get this up here. So
I'll read through each one, and then that can go back to a bit of old school.
Right.
So the second one, we've got the Southern REAP, so that's assistance towards cost to deliver their space programs, postnatal support program for parents of 0 to 5 month old babies. Total project cost of 19,000, amount requested 9,224, and recommendation of 8.5. Comments or questions on that one? Everyone fairly happy with that?
It's a substantially big chunk
Yes. How does,
our this thing. And I
how
just
does
wa-
it, sorry.
And I just wondered, is this the same amount we've been funding every time?
For Southern REAP?
Yeah.
So they vary in what they request. So they usually, we used to give them just an annual payment that they received with no application, but now they are being asked to put into this contestable fund. So they usually tag it to one of their many programs that they do, so it will vary. So usually the last couple of years it's been about 6,000 or 8,000, so yeah, it's around the same amount.
Did they get something in the last round? They did not.
So a year ago they did.
6 months back.
No.
And I think with that one, just speaking to my own experience in that area, there's definitely a need for that kind of support in that space. So, Councillor Keys?
Just a question, how does it vary from what Plunkett can be offered?
Yeah, well, from my experience, there's gaps in that market, and this is certainly plugging that gap. Christine?
Right,
Hang on, we'll just have to get you.
I've got some highly technical stuff I've got to do here. Right, there we go.
Yeah.
Thank you, Worship. Just a question around, do you know where it's been delivered? It says in Winton, and I see the venue cost of $1,500. I'm just wondering where it is delivered.
I'm not 100% sure on that.
Southern REAP? I do know that this is delivered into a chapter at the police centre. They bring their van out boys.
Keep talking. Christine can still hear us, but I have to mute the microphone so we don't get the feedback.
So the extent to which I know is they come out for 4 hours. They'll come on a Friday in the middle of the police centre morning, and they bring quite a few boys and a truckload of them virtually, and that's about it.
Christine, I'm not sure of Winton, but I do know where it is, but I do know they initially looked at using the Browns Community Centre. So it is being delivered in Winton, but I'm not sure of the venue.
Councillor Fraser.
On their Facebook page, they're saying they're using the Senior Citizens, John Street.
Does that kind of answer your question?
I didn't quite hear the answer, Darren. Councillor Fraser, were you saying somewhere in...
Senior Citizen.
Right. So I was just wondering about it's delivered in a council facility for which they're paying the $1,500. That was just what my question was related to, and whether there's room to move there.
Councillor Duffy.
So is it delivered from one venue and people from, say, area would have to travel to that?
It sounds like from Councillor Butler that it is.
Yes, they travel. They've got a monogram.
So, but perhaps in the Wyndham Edendale Toppenham area it's not available. I've never heard of it. I think it's great.
It may even be worth feeding into them and suggesting that there's a need out there that they.
That's fine. We can do that. Yeah.
So general consensus is we're fine with that one. The third one is Heritage South. So that's for assistance towards volunteer travel costs for the Southland Oral History Project. Total cost is 250. Requesting 750, and the recommendation is 750. Everyone happy with that one?
I think very good. It would be good to see a report back occasionally about how many people are being interviewed and where that archive's held and how many of them are actually out in the district.
That information was included in that second attachment that we got on the hub.
The application form.
All right.
The application form. I'm sure that information was included. Yeah. but we can't see it, but.
Just at the moment.
Yeah.
So we've got the Southland Multicultural Trust, so that's requesting assistance towards costs for the Clued Up Communities program in September of this year. Total project cost $4,400, requesting 3.5, and staff recommendation is 2.5. We happy with that one? Councillor Geist?
And again, it may be in the information, the supporting that whereabouts is that being delivered?
So,
I doubt how.
yeah, I think so.
It's in that other information. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, Winton and a Tautau, they're doing that, yeah.
So we're comfortable with that one?
Yeah.
Riverton Community Charitable Trust, so this is one that was just discussed earlier, so they're asking for assistance towards the costs associated with their 2023 Matariki celebrations, hoping to attract visitors from other communities such as Tuatapere, Otautau, Ojai and Nightcaps. Total project cost of $3,000, requesting $1,000, and the recommendation is $800. Yeah, Councillor Russell.
Yeah, thank you. I won't speak to that. I was just trying to remind myself. So the application to Creative New Zealand is just enough information behind it. My question now is if they've still got the creative funding in their application, without that creative funding, and if we fund this $800, then that event. And we talked about the event, if they got more background behind what they wanted to do, but like at this stage we thought a few Matarikis in the district and that application to us wasn't strong enough.
Yeah, I mean, I think they would, if they just got this funding, I think they would possibly just work with that to do, smaller scale event. But, whether you want to align the thinking of the two grants and the two funds and say, look, come back to us when it's a bit more prepared and so you can do it bigger and better next time. I don't know, that's up to you guys.
Through you, Your Worship, I had some queries in a similar vein, Councillor Ruddenclaw. I did wonder whether this was the right fund, I just wasn't sure.
My question would be that I know we were told last year on a different funding committee that I'm on that there's plenty of money available for Matariki celebrations through the Maori side of things. And I just wonder if they've stepped that way.
The other options through you, Your Worship, is, and I have had this discussion with them a year ago, is their local community partnership fund have one round a year, which is end of August, and they can approach them, which is probably a little bit more appropriate. And I have actually already had that conversation with them, so I can have that conversation with them again.
So there's a general feeling from the room for that one to decline that one at this stage?
Yeah, through Your Worship, that was exactly my, because that's the exact note I made, wasn't that the community partnership fund could be more appropriate.
And we'll be able to give that feedback.
Absolutely. The Ministry of Culture released a separate funding, didn't they, for Matariki celebrations? $3 million.
Okay, so we've got the Winton Men's Friendship Club for assistance towards costs for transport of their club choir to entertain at various rest homes and senior citizen clubs around Southland.
Thanks.
So the total project cost is $7,000. They've requested $2,000, and staff have recommended that we provide $2,000. Any feedback questions?
I'd just like to make a comment that they have been to where my mum is at Cargill, and she thinks they are amazing.
No other questions, or everyone, Councillor Wilson?
Just a comment on that one of whether there was an application for creative communities. That seems like the arts and creative just for future applications, perhaps.
So would you sort of recommend as part, so you're saying accept it, but recommend that in the future they apply to creative communities as well?
SCC.
They have been supported by this fund.
Yeah, I guess that's what you said, Rob, of accepting this application, but perhaps in future putting them in touch with the creative communities applications.
The thing, we are actually supporting them because I'm not sure how much of their singing would actually be within the Southland District, so it's basically supporting the really, there's not that many, what's it, 2 or 3 2 homes that I can think of in the south, or 3 homes in the south. And so,
I guess some of
it's just, but yeah, I think that they need to look at the creative communities.
So next on the list is the Northern Southland Community Pool Trust. So they're requesting assistance towards costs to upgrade the pool heating system to a heat pump. It's currently a diesel burner, and installing solar panels. So the total project cost is estimated at $167,395. They've requested $5,000 and staff have recommended $4,000. Councillor Geist.
Today, I feel. This is interesting because a lot of the other pools, we've got 5 pools in the community board area of Waihopai Toitoi, and they would not come to here. And so, whilst it is covered, I get that this is anomaly, if you like, because those 2 smaller boards are smaller boards up there. It sort of is a bit unfair because if we debate to divide Waihopai Toitoi, which in area is a large area, into 2 community board areas, they too could come here, but because they're not, those pools can't. So, yeah, I sort of feel like I worry about the precedents that we're setting here.
I guess technically it's covering the more than one board area. But
That's
yeah,
why I presume that's why they're here.
Do you have any comment?
Sorry, what was that?
I presume their application is accepted here because they cover more than one.
Yeah. So a lot of their users, especially the high school, draws people from a lot of different community board areas.
It's because they're small community board areas. Yeah.
And it's one of the bigger pools in the area for the
They do have.
So are you comfortable with that, or are you not comfortable with that, Councillor?
Oh, it's just a comment that I.
Councillor Fraser?
Just following on from that, have they applied to the local fund as well, or is this?
They have. So they applied to the Northern Southland Development Fund, but were declined because it's a very small pot of money, and they had quite a few applications. So they just said, look, maybe you could come back next year. Since it's at the very beginning stages of their project, they're just starting their funding applications.
The local initiative? No.
Councillor O'Brien?
Just with regards to this pool fund and the solar installation of solar to heat the pool and so on, this conversation has been going for a while now. Do we have a timeline from them of when this could potentially be completed?
It'll depend on when they get their funding. So they'll have to work in with funding deadlines, particularly with EYA. So they have quite a long, it's usually about 6 months before you find out. So I know they'd probably like to get it done as soon as possible, for the next season, but realistically they're probably looking at, I would say, next, end of 2024 season, if they get all their ducks in a row for their funding applications.
Councillor Keith?
Just for clarity on that, is that how much money have they actually raised so far?
I know they're just doing a fundraiser. I've just done one at the moment. So yeah, that's right. Yeah. So at the moment they've indicating $10,000 fundraising and $10,000 of their own savings towards the project. I guess this is going to may change depending on their funding outcomes.
So have they got a plan for the rest of it?
So as I say, they're in very early stages. So when I saw the application, I immediately went back to Gina, who's the person who fills out all the applications, and said, look, let's keep in touch about this, because I thought her figure for lotteries was probably a bit low and she could get more from them. So I said, look, I'll just work with you and help you do your budget. But we're just, in very early stages at the moment.
There was that helicopter drop done 2 weeks ago. I think that raised 5 figures anyway. I can't remember the exact number, but so there is about an active fund.
Through your worship, do we know that, the quotes, the estimates that they get, how long are these prices going to be held for?
It's usually, I would say, 3 months. I guess it would probably depend on the supplier, but that's your standard, I would say. So they will have to keep reviewing that and getting updated quotes for, especially if they're applying for community funding.
So do we've kind of got a bit of a mix in here, so what's the general consensus if...
I just think it's, to get funds, they have to have money in their bank account before they can go to people like lotteries, the Community Trust of Southland. A lot of these ones will only give you 50%, so it's important that they get some cash into their, the more money they can get, the better chance they are of getting funding from other sources.
Councillor Wilson.
Thanks, Rob. Just to make one comment on this one, considering it's transitioning from a diesel heat pump to solar panels, and just want to remember the workshop around LTP values of working towards sustainable infrastructure. So I feel that's quite
Right, so we've got the recommendation there of 4,000. Are we relatively comfortable with that? I guess, is there anyone not comfortable with that? Cool, so that one's good discussion on that. And last but not least is the Invercargill Rock and Roll Club. So that's requesting assistance towards the costs for the Ascot High Tea fundraising event. Total project cost of 14,435, requesting 800, and the staff recommendation is 800. Noting the comments before about the Invercargill nature of it. Any comments, questions? Councillor Greenie?
Your Worship, in terms of the budget for this event which was presented, I can find it again. Some concerns, because actually the cost of it, a lot of these events that are run in communities are, they make a, sorry, I can't find it.
Yeah, do you want a copy here?
There it is. No, I've got it now. They make a substantial part of their income from their ticket sales and donations. But in terms of income, they're only proposed to get $10,450 income on a $16,600 expenditure. Just seems to me that budget is way out of whack when you are looking at a fundraiser which essentially is being asked to be actually paid for completely by somebody else.
There's a bit of irony in the fundraising for a fundraiser.
It's a fundraiser that's going to cost them substantially more than they're hoping to raise. So either there's something way out of whack with this, I believe.
Or do they have auctions at the fundraiser? That is their main. Potentially. I'm not sure.
Well, that's where I was sort of just flagging that as being a issue.
Any other comments or thoughts on?
I happen to know that the Community Trust don't support fundraisers, so probably the revenues are limited.
Anybody else have any thoughts? Are we comfortable or not so comfortable on this one? Not so comfortable, I'm seeing a few head shakes. So, general consensus is not comfortable on that one, do we decline that one? And if so, what reason do we want to provide with that? Decline? It's not relevant to the funding. Right, so that's all of them.
It's out of areas.
Yeah.
But we don't know what
But we don't know what their membership
is. Yeah.
As well.
Only have members in the...
So,
a recommendation to go back to communities.
Yeah.
Six for Winton Men's Friendship Club. Tag was put in touch with Creative Communities.
Yeah, but still passed.
Yeah, so we've got a feeling on the budget of 2,000, but the tag.
Correct. Right, so is everyone in favour of those recommendations? Councillor Beaufry, please.
Yep.
Thank you, Councillor Spragan. All in favour, please say aye. Thank you. Good to see you.
Celebrity.
Right, we now have 7.9, and that's the grant to assist with the Lumsden Helipad project. And I'll invite Kelly Tagg and welcome Greg, the chair of the Northern Community Board. Now, I just want to put a bit of a proviso for myself. Whilst I haven't got a direct conflict of interest, I have been somewhat involved in various steps of this. So, whilst I'll still chair it, I won't take part in any of the voting on it. So, just yeah, welcome, Greg, and welcome, Kelly.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. So Greg and I are just here to talk to you today about an unbudgeted expenditure request for a grant of $10,000 from the Mauaroa Waimea Ward Reserve, and this is to help with the final costs of the Lumsden Helipad project. So the body corporate in Lumsden, which comprises the police, fire and emergency in St John, are the organisation that is pulling this project together, and they're the ones that have applied for the resource consent. So they have got resource consent and they're pretty much ready to go. The community has been really supportive of this project, and there's been book sales and other community events held over the last 18 months or so as they've been trying to raise the money. So the total cost for this is about $35,000, and there has been a lot of community help and support with labour and materials and things as well with that. So yes, we'd just like to ask you to consider the recommendation. I don't have the full agenda, so I can't tell you which page that is, but it's that you consider the request to grant that $10,000 from the Mauaroa Waimea Ward Reserve. And I have put a little bit of background in there under the issues section about ward rates and ward reserves for those of you that are not familiar, and hopefully the CFO behind me can help out with any general questions about ward reserves as well.
Page 94.
Yeah, so just on behalf of the community board, we're 100% in behind the what we think is an essential requirement for the district, especially since the maternity ward was closed down a few years ago. It just showed aspects of that requirement of having the helicopter service available 24 hours a day, and that's what the helipad will assist in doing. So yeah, we're 100% behind the application. Well, it is well underway, and apparently you could build the Empire State Building on top of it. It's that well designed and protected. If there'd be an earthquake, it's still going to be the only thing standing. But yeah, so that has blown the costs out for them quite a bit. So it's pretty timely that they get some extra funds for it, if possible.
Just to quickly add, on the 17th of April, I believe the community board passed the recommendation that it come up to this to council to be approved. So the community board is supportive of it.
Do we have any questions?
So you're right. What are the requirements from the helicopters? You know, ideally, I suppose they can land in a paddock if they have to, but
so they can, I'm not an expert on this, but I do believe, so they can access the lighting remotely, and so they can get the lighting turned on. They don't have to have someone on site to assist them with doing that. So that's one real particular requirement that's beneficial, and obviously the lighting guiding under them into pad under harsher conditions that assist them to land there more easier to.
They did some work a couple of years ago for IFR, so that's actually a recognised site now on that flight path. So in bad weather conditions, they can actually, it's a recognised, it's technically recognised as an airport, even though it's not an airport, but it meets that criteria, and to meet that criteria, it needed a whole lot of things around it, which have increased the cost as well. But it's
through you with Otago Helicopters, who are doing they will have a dedicated flight pad from Dunedin and probably from Invercargill Hospital to the helipad, and they can get to within a matter of a few centimetres in any weather. Having just been through this whole argument on Stewart Island where we've got ours completed, and that was the crucial thing, is that they could fly from Dunedin to the helipad with limited vision, if no vision, and put the helicopter down on the pad. And you can't just use a rugby field anymore.
To move it, I think it's a no-brainer, and well done with all the work that's gone in behind it.
I do like the
I guess the only question being, in light of project costs going up, has there been any change of cost and scope, and is 10,000 enough for the
I have been in recent communication with the person that's been helping with the funding, and she's indicated that $10,000 is the shortfall, and that was just in time to do, as Fran said, we had a report up to our April meeting, and those figures were current, so I believe that's accurate, and there is a lot of community support and labour that's gone into it too.
So I have someone in a position to second it. Councillor Fraser, all in favour?
Aye.
Anyone against? That's carried, and thank you to Greg for taking the time to come and present that report. It's great to have a community board chair here at the council, so thank you. And we now stay where you are, because 7.10, so the purchase and installation of flag tracks in Applegarth, Mosman and Lumsden, unbudgeted expenditure approval on page 97 of your agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So again, just the Community Board would like, at its meeting on the 17th of April, also passed a recommendation to come to Council to seek approval for a budgeted expenditure of up to $26,000, again from the Mauaroa Waimea Award Reserve, to cover the cost of installing flag tracks in Athelgaston, Mosman and Lumsden. A lot of our smaller towns have got these now. For those of you not familiar with them, it's like a curtain track type system, and it lets the people stand on the ground and raise and lower flags. There had previously been flags on the poles in the towns, but now with changes to traffic management, they actually need to get someone with a cherry picker and pay the traffic management costs to put the flags up and down, because they can't do it from the ground. We've previously used ward reserves before to fund these in other areas, particularly in the Waihopai Toitoi area, and I believe some of the other towns have used them as well. So the board wanted to ask Council if they could please have some access or further access to the Mauaroa Waimea Ward Reserve to help with this. The towns in the area do have reserves available, but there are some significant costs coming up in the towns, particularly around footpaths and other projects, and so they wanted to ask if they could use this money. When we talked about it on the 17th of April, there was quite a lot of feeling about it from the board, and they were really supportive of this project, and they really wanted to apply for this fund. If you just refer to my report underneath the community views section, paragraphs 23 to 26 there just talks about why the board says that it's important.
99.
Thank you. They think that it aligns with their community board plan, which was all about vibrancy, and they wanted to be able to use them. So the plan is that we'd have at least 3 flags for a start, so we can do things like Anzac Day, potentially Matariki. Other people in the communities can buy the flags themselves and put them up for events, like the likes of Cycle and Celebrate, which is a regular thing. And one of the board members also thought too that they don't have big beautification budgets in their town, and it was a real way that they could add vibrancy and interest in the town. And they did think that perhaps some people felt that they were struggling to see value for money, and they thought that this was a way that they could really inject some colour and interest into their towns. Anything you wanted to add to that?
It's that support, thanks Kelly, the support that the community board have eventually come to. The flag tracks was probably presented to us about 3 years ago with a somewhat, subdued acceptance, but we've revisited it a couple of times at our previous meetings to that, since that, and the enthusiasm's grown a bit. Just we haven't got a lot of opportunities to spruce the towns up, give them an injection of vibrance, and see this as just an opportunity to gather some, you know, a bit of vibrancy into those wee country towns, and celebrate those days that are you know celebrated throughout the year. But so that's our request. So the board was very keen to access them if possible for the chips.
Do you have any questions? Councillor Ridden-Gordon, we'll get back to task.
I would just like to make a comment through you. Thank you. I think it's a great idea. I'm all about the arts as well, but it was interesting. Councillor Fraser, we had a workshop at a Reti on Monday night, and Councillor Fraser brought it to the table as a suggestion for the Reti community area with the towns of Dipton, Winton and Wannistown. So great idea, and maybe we could take it further in the district.
Sorry, Councillor Keister was actually supposed to go first. No, that was my fault.
Thank you. Congratulations. They are, well, Paul and I were very proactive in getting them into the Waihapai Toy Award, and they look great. My advice is go big, get plenty of them, rather than, more is better, because and having them being able to be evenly spaced. They look, I think Gorge Road, it's a small town, but it's probably got about 4 of them along the front, and you can see them all, and they make an impact. So, yeah, so don't jump on the number.
We might need more money.
I think potentially we're 7 for Lumsden, 3 or 4 for Osborne, Garston.
Yeah, Tower 3 as well.
Is in the plan for the costing. So.
No further questions, Councillor Wilson?
Yeah, completely agree with the health and safety aspect of this. I've been involved in another project outside the district that putting flags up has cost almost half of the installation of this just for a one-off installation and removal. The only concern I have is, I guess, anecdotally from my community engagement, I haven't, I guess, seen the agreement with number 22 that the community board uses as representative of the wider community. It may just be the circles I run in, but I also don't want to undermine the recommendation from the community board. So if I can actually abstain from voting on this one.
Councillor O'Brien?
Yeah, based on Councillor Wilson's sentiment, and also earlier you sort of mentioned a potential conflict, I think I'd like to abstain from voting as well. Thank you.
Right, so is there someone willing to move those motions? Councillor Dallin?
I'd be happy to move. I think this is a really positive course of action, and they've just been so successful in our area. We've never heard one negative comment about them, and it certainly brightens up the places when they're there. And in an area where you get such through traffic, it'll be great.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Ridden-Gordon. I'll put the motion to the table, and if there's no further comment, all in favour, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Anyone against, other than 2 abstaining? Do you want those abstaining votes recorded? Yep. So I declare that motion carried, and thank you once again to Greg and Kelly and Fran. That's great.
Thank you very much.
Flag for the Northern Southland races.
So next up on our agenda, which is page 101, is the financial report for the period ending 31st of March. And welcome Joni and Andy.
Good afternoon, Your Worship, members of Council. The financial report for the period ended 31 March is hereby taken as read, with the changes from the previous financial report shown in with underline. I'd like to remind you that the changes to the budget as part of the forecasting round agreed by Council on the 19th of April will only reflect in next month's report, which is April onwards. I'm happy to dive right into questions and answers if that's all right. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the floor?
Keep the dream going. Keep the dream going. Page 110. 110. Under community resources, we are commenting here about it being delayed enough way. due to staff changes. When we actually first approved that, there was a requirement that quarterly reports would come back to council on what was happening. It's a big chunk of money, and to date we have not received quarterly reports, and that's probably not. I mean, you'll be involved in it, but it does need to happen. It does need to come back to council, and so I'd ask that happen at some time in the near future.
Sure, through you, Mr. Chair, we'll follow that up and ensure that happens.
Would you like to add that to the motion, Councillor Keith? Get a report back. Councillor Wilson, you got pencil?
It's, I guess, a bigger picture question that probably should be on the same page, 110, that stormwater capital costs are quite below projection. I guess that doesn't really allow the opportunity to bring forward any other capital projects, does it, within the planning? I'm not sure who I'm directing that question to.
We'll have to come back to you on that point, but I would think not at this stage. You're now midway through May, so if you're trying to get that work out.
It's just taking that.
But what I will do is I'll find out some more information in regards to why those projects are delayed.
Any further questions? Thank you for that. Sorry, we're just getting the motion typed up, so.
Request that there be quarterly reporting on open spaces.
Yeah, business units probably not. Do we need to get more specific in the report at a future meeting? How long would we need for that report, do you think?
I just need to go back and find out where it's at, so it'll probably be at least a couple of meetings, I would think.
There is one in preparation, I think, that I will be coming to this meeting, so it shouldn't be that far away.
Cool. So, are you comfortable with that motion that we've got up there?
Yep. It's not there yet.
But it's not there yet, sorry.
Just through you, Mr. Chair, I believe actually, I've just checked on my chain, but I believe there's actually an open spaces workshop at your next meeting, the 1st of May, so there'll be some discussion on it there. It's on the timeline. Sorry, I forgot about that.
You can leave it in there if you want to. At least we've actually noted it. Okay, so are we good to... Well, so are you happy to move that we receive that report with that additional motion?
Sounds good.
Do we have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor O'Brien. All in favour, please say aye. Okay, thank you. Now we do it for time. Right. Next item on the agenda is the Te Anau Airport review.
Hang on.
Sorry, I just jumped ahead.
Oh, no, you haven't. No, you haven't. No, you haven't. No, there's another one. Sorry.
False alarm. Just get my blood pressure back in check. Page 121 of your agenda, and I'll ask the Chief Executive to introduce this report, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Right, so the report is relatively straightforward. It's actually requesting Council's permission to conduct a review of the Te Anau Airport Manapuri. About approximately 20 years ago, Council acquired the current location, and over a number of years there's been a number of development steps, decisions, you name it. The challenge the airport faces, as I've spelled out there, is that it is quite an expensive piece of infrastructure to operate, but doesn't have a lot of flights, or certainly not large commercial ones that pay much. And one of the challenges that airports have is that the airside operations, and particularly where they're compliant with Civil Aviation Part 139 certification, are much more expensive than passenger numbers can support. So airports typically also make money from the non-airside, although Te Anau Airport Manapuri has some constraints around the consent conditions that were put on that when it was first developed. It is appropriate to do a review. It's certainly been requested a number of times, I think, over the years, and nothing focuses the mind like seeing a specific rate for it. The funding shortfall was met by the Fiordland community specifically. But then I have noted it in a couple of places in the report. It is listed as a strategic asset by council in the significant engagement policy, which means that decisions around it have to be made through the long-term plan. So in order to get sufficient guidance to inform the long-term plan, this review is strongly recommended. Terms of reference are attached, and any questions?
Thank you, Councillor Fraser.
Just aware one of the recommendations may come out is district funding, and wondering if under the objectives and scopes, benefit to the wider Southland community is also kind of because we may need to sell that concept to the wider community, and if we don't have that, it seems an opportune time to kind of ask that wider question. Yeah.
If I may, I think the LTP process, the ability for district funding really exists in rating. I have to go to Anne here. Our current policies do allow some district.
I guess the review could inform that decision.
That's what I was just about to go to. I wasn't trying to anticipate what the review might say, but it is highly possible that district funding could end up being one of the options on the table, which would then form part of the LTP consultation.
I think, Your Worship, probably under the scope and objective, what does success look like, actually probably encompasses that element of a review. Success potentially encompasses that district aspect of it.
So Councillor Byers, Councillor Wilson, Councillor Chamberlain.
Thank you, Your Worship. I mean, we've got a strategic asset that's costing a lot of money for the Fiordland ratepayer, and spreading that across the district isn't going to change the fact that it's costing us a lot of money. So as far as this review goes, I prefer that we signal to the people doing the review that district-wide funding is not an option. So do a proper review and don't look to a fallback across the broad rating base. And if you have that, then I'm not sure that you've got all of the right people there to do a proper review.
I don't think there. Sorry.
Could I just draw your attention to page 124? Hopefully your machines are working. That's got the objectives and scope and the terms of reference. The terms of reference do not head into district funding or not. And I just think it's slightly preemptive to rule that in or rule it out when the objectives of the review are actually more specific about the actual operation, not necessarily about how to fund it.
I think we can get an idea of what's going to come back from this review, and it's going to require district-wide funding unless there's a real effort to make that strategic asset where it can pay its own way.
I think to the earlier comments, I think irrespective of what comes out, I think that, like you said yourself, the viability of the airport is the focus of the review, not how it's actually funded. And the mechanism, like we said before, is already there to charge it by district rate. So I don't think we need to specify that. I think it's covered in those objectives there about looking at the operational aspect of it rather than the funding side of it, because that's part of the idea for doing the review in itself is to look at.
So I'm just thinking that if you say now that district-wide funding is not an option, then that'll focus the review.
that almost predetermines an outcome for the review as well. I would suggest that we leave it open to whatever, because it's not making a decision. We make the decision after the outcome of the review comes out. Councillor Wilson.
Thanks, Rob. I guess just to follow up on Don's comments there, and I guess in disagreement, I think having a review and keeping all options open, whether it's district-wide, even to region-wide, knowing that neighbouring councils like Gore have the Mandeville airfield, and seeing how those infrastructures may work in on a regional asset respect things. I do just wonder within the membership in terms of reference, whether there'd be appetite to include either an independent, perhaps someone from the aviation community. We've talked about, or Sarah's talked about the Whirianga Airport, and whether a representative from even potentially outside to bring a different aviation sense to the membership, and also whether the Fiordland board member, I'm assuming that's another Fiordland community board member, and whether the Fiordland Business Association may be able to have some representative on their membership.
Did you want to say one? So the scope, we've already talked to potential external experts in the field. So the membership of the board is not going to be limited to the only people that are going to be involved in the, when I say board, sorry, of the group, the working group. So they'll be able to pull those people in on an as-needed basis, and that may change. I mean, its scope can be adjusted by the working group as well if they wanted to co-opt other people on. But I think it's important to recognise the fact that group isn't just those are the only people working on it, and there already has been discussion with Great South and some of those experts in the field that have got that relevant skill set to feed into this process, because that is a very important point, that we are getting the right knowledge and expertise feeding into this. And
so it'd be more in an advisory consulting sense rather than a board and governance.
So it's more the process here is the governance of the process, but definitely feeding in and engaging with the community and the likes of the Fiordland Business Association as well, and so that they're all involved in the process. Do you want to comment at all, Councillor Green, to that?
Through your worship, yes, there will be a number of groups that will need to be consulted with, not just the Fiordland Business Association, but the Airport User Group. There's another significant group, and I think it's probably, I'm not sure whether someone wants to talk to this or not, but this group will have to refer to the CEO anyway if it wishes to engage anybody independent. So the group will not have the ability to engage. That will come back to the CEO to engage. If you want to comment any further than that.
Just to add to that, only for keeping accountability lines separate. As far as I'm concerned, the working group can call for the expertise that it needs. I did note in the report that airports are actually technical operations, so it's highly likely that there will need to be some specialist expertise called on from time to time, hence the desire to have a budget. I also saw the working group as being supported in its work with a couple of key council staff to ensure that in the background things are able to be done between the meetings.
Councillor Chamberlain.
Yeah, look, I support the fact that it needs a review done. I just, as a ratepayer and a user of the airport, I don't believe having, sorry Sarah, but members of the community board on that committee. I think, I mean, the FBA, and I'll admit my wife's part of it, has sent a letter to the council outlining their strategic plan or their, what they'd like to see happen. And I think there's a lot of people out there in the community that, as Tom said, take it to the community and let them solve the problem a little bit. But I just don't think there's enough airport experience on that board. And I think it needs someone like a Nigel Finnerty to chair it, someone totally outside of the council on that committee.
my point to that would be that and what I alluded to before is that the purpose of the board is to provide the governance, and I'm certainly comfortable with the membership of the board to do that, and engaging in those expertise of people like, I'm not saying necessarily Nigel Finnerty, but people in that kind of space with that skill set feeding into the board. And it's the same as us at the council level, we're governing here, and the experts come in and provide the information for us to decide on. And I think that's an important part to think about how this working group is going to work. They don't necessarily need the expertise to govern the process, but to govern the expertise coming in and feeding into the process is important, and having the right people coming in is going to be important. And I'm very confident that we've got the right structure in place to be able to do that.
Yeah, well, I'm not so confident. I just think it needs to be more of an independent review of how this airport works, rather than more of a perspective.
Yeah, no points noted. I've got Councillor Duffy and then Councillor Boparai.
So my question just is, under the terms of reference, could a recommendation to sell be part of that?
I think anything is on the table, and I think it's important to the comments before about predetermining anything. I think we need to basically start this process with a blank piece of paper and not rule out anything in this to give it justice, because the last thing I want to see here is another report that's done on something that sits on the shelf, and in 10 years' time we're doing the same thing. So this really needs to be outcome focused and action focused as well. I think is really important. Councillor Boparai.
Thank you. I would just like to put on record that I am also not completely comfortable with the membership of the working group right now. Between councillors, board members, staffers and Great South, I do believe we need at least one truly independent person on this board, regardless of how many consultants you bring in or bring out. Someone on the governance team. I feel the way we look at the structure right now is more inward looking than to be able to put it out there and say this. There's, truly independent opinion right on the table. So that would be my concern. I just wanted that recorded. Thank you.
We do Richard Roberts, the ex-chief executive of Dunedin Airport. We've approached him, and I mean, he may, if that's the desire from this council, we may be able to actually put him as a member on that board. If that's, I don't know if Councillor Granny's got any thoughts, but like after discussing this approach with him, I'm very comfortable that he's the right man to be involved in, and the links that we have, even through our Great South chair, Ian Collier, with the Air New Zealand experience. We've actually got a lot of knowledge close at hand, but does that make you more comfortable, Councillor, if Richard was on?
I am not particularly about any person, Rob. It's just having one person who has had virtually nothing to do with council, nothing at all in whatsoever level. Yeah. And that is where my concern comes in.
So you'd be comfortable if he was a member of that group?
I mean, I can't particularly speak to a person if he can say that he's not having to.
I'm more talking about the
I'd say
role.
Truly we possibly should cast the net wider than someone who's had, no consultation, consultancy, anything at all to do with council.
I've got Councillor Menzies online there. Hopefully we can hear you. I'll let you know when we can hear you. No, we can't hear you yet. Sorry, Christine.
I've got to turn something up here.
Yeah, cool.
Yep. Thank you, Your Worship. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I just feel a bit uncomfortable with the other two places. Is it two places on the terms of reference left with a question mark? I would endorse someone from Great South being involved, but I would appreciate some certainty around the names, I guess, and also thinking of the significance of this asset, that maybe there's someone in place there who's outside of the Te Anau area itself. I don't know where that leaves this report today, because I wouldn't want to see it delayed to any extent, but I would feel more comfortable if those names are noted down. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry.
Councillor Jones, yeah, I'm just totally uncomfortable with it. I think I don't know how to put it. It almost like it needs to go to the Te Anau community a little bit more and get some more input from them, or communicate with the Te Anau Airport about what's been done, because I think people are frustrated that they don't see anything happening, and it's not being communicated back to the people of the Fjordland area. So,
Councillor Gray.
Through you, Your Worship, that's the whole point of this report, is to actually get get the process started and to actually start that whole engagement. There has been, to answer Councillor Menzies' question, Mark Fruit from Great South has been approached, and so at this point, here's the name that has been suggested. He also has airport experience.
And also outside of the Fjordland.
And is outside of the Fjordland area.
and I also think someone from the FBA, that should be on that committee that can liaise back with the business community of Te Anau as well.
I think part of the process, and I mean, we can have a look at the terms of reference going forward with the chair, but I think just to your original point about this is a council asset, the asset belongs to council, and the whole role of the community board is to feed back into the community as well. So that
Well, I think that's the frustration, Robert. It's not being communicated back to the community because.
To the Fjordland Business Association, I mean, I've been in direct contact with the chair on more than one occasion, both telephone calls and in writing. So there has definitely been communication going backwards and forwards there. So I've got Councillor Keast and then Councillor O'Brien.
I support what Sarah was saying, actually, that the whole it is for this committee to actually engage with all the people that need to be heard from. Hopefully there's enough publicity around for anybody that's sitting in the wing hasn't made their presence felt or their interest felt or known, that they actually come out of the woodwork and actually get on board with and talk to the committee or to the committee about how they would actually want to be communicated with, so that we don't miss anybody.
I think to that point, it's important that we don't have a closed door kind of process. It's going to be a very open process involving as many people as possible. Councillor O'Brien.
Yeah, probably just following on from the just general feeling of the conversation. Yeah, I personally feel more comfortable that a member from the Civil Aviation Authority be a member on this, because they are completely objective. There's probably other examples around the country where this sort of model's been replicated and they've looked for potential solutions, and it could be a way to fast track some of the questions or queries that we have around this asset that has been almost 20 years in the making. It's costing the ratepayers several $100,000 a year. But it is also heartening to hear that, we've now got a membership board who are committed to engaging with the community. And I guess that's the ultimate challenge, is to be able to, engage with everyone within the community. I'm aware of, there's several large companies that operate out of Te Anau in the fishing industry who feel very strongly about this issue, and they have some historical, there's a lot of historical background in there. But yeah, do we have a timeline for this?
Well, the timeline's going to fit in with the long-term plan, so we're basically, that gives us a finite deadline of when this needs to come back in. So, because otherwise we're waiting another 3 years for that process. So that actually, the time is now, essentially. So just to your comments about the CAA, so you saying that the likes of talking to a particular person, but like Rich's experience is enough experience there, or you think someone specifically from the CAA? Because I just wonder how we might have accessibility to such a person to actually be on that board.
I could give you access to someone from the Civil Aviation who's a very senior official within that. So I'm happy to have a conversation with them and see if they'll be receptive to, engaging with you.
I guess we can leave that up to the chair of the group to whether what role they play, whether they come co-opt them as a member or. So, to Councillor Menzies' points before, I think we need to amend those terms of reference just to remove the question mark, and we could probably actually name the individual from Great South now, because there's some more clarity around that. And
Pacific Trade.
And we could probably put Robert's name in there as well, and that just provides a bit more clarity around that. Councillor Duffy, if you could.
I just want to clarify, so that the committee we're talking about is the governance. With this, they'll be engaging somebody else with expertise that'll be carrying out the review. Have I got that right?
They'll be coordinating the review.
Yeah. So someone with expertise and knowledge will be engaged to
feed in, or multiple. So you can talk to us.
Yeah, or an agency with that.
Not to do all the work, because I think that's the actual point, is that you bring in the specialists when you need to engage with them. Otherwise the cost is quite significant when you start to engage somebody on a full-time permanent basis to actually do this work. And I think to the point of a lot of people here in the room, we've engaged consultants previously who have just written the report and it's ended up being sat on the table. I think the whole point of this is to actually use a different approach so that we do get that community engagement and conversation, bring in the practical expertise that we can bring in from elsewhere, and actually start to actually get the traction that we actually need. And it's the review will have to be completed by October to fit in timeframes. So that to the Mayor's point, the time's now.
Yeah. I think just that point of it, this is, and to Councillor Chamberlain's point before as well, this being driven and run by the community, for the community, is actually really important. So we're not just farming it out to an external consultant to tell us, to ask for a report, that we're actually involving the community in this, and having that localised governance group provides the ability to feed in with the local knowledge and all of that as well. So I think that's a really important aspect to this. And the governance advisor has just wisely suggested that we put a sunset clause into that terms of reference as well, so that actually does lock in that time frame for that long-term plan period.
So have a sunset clause date of?
Well, when would it need to be agreed upon to feed into the long-term plan? Do we have an actual physical date that we could? The ball's getting thrown.
Yesterday. Well, from our point of view, I mean, we've got to have final numbers done by the end of November.
Yeah.
So it's really as ASAP from our point of view.
So if we put 1 October in there, then
yeah.
I mean that's too late, but everything's too late. So
well, yeah.
Or is that, are you uncomfortable with that?
No, we'll work on
that. So with those amendments that I've just talked about, is there someone happy to move?
Can you clarify what the membership amendments was? So it's removing the question marks on staff member in Great South and adding an independent?
Great South was removed and Mark Frood's name was actually put in there as the person from Great South that's being in there. Adding in Richard Roberts into their membership.
Is that as an independent? Or
as an independent, yeah.
Preferred in.
So we've got Mark Frood in brackets Great South, Richard Roberts, we've got independent.
And then fixing the spelling of the board chair's name.
Making it Fiordland
Community Board member.
And adding in the sunset clause, the working group have a sunset clause in October 23.
Or you could probably put Nick Robertson as the
good point.
So you can actually name him.
Nick Robertson. Oh, he's community board
member. Community board, the other community board member.
And staff member being a voting member, not a supporting staff member.
That staff member is a support
That's
role.
a support role,
not a voting role. Yeah, so that's separating the governance and the operations out. And yeah, we'll just note that as well.
Okay, then
operational non-voting member.
Non-voting.
So with those amendments, are you happy to move that, Councillor? Yeah. Do we have a second?
I thought you were meaning a staff member at the airport. I thought, well, that's not a bad idea. It's someone who's engaging with the users all the time.
Well, again, it's they're part of, that you've got Quash, who are essentially looking at the management of the airport in addition to the users, in addition to interested business parties, there are a lot of people to engage with, and that group is another group to engage with.
So there's someone, sorry.
Just one question with if we're putting independent member, but predetermining who that independent member is it not the policy to put feelers out for an independent appointee?
That has already happened prior to this happening.
Right.
Yeah, as part of forming this discussion. And if anyone else came along out of the woodwork, there's nothing stopping the group actually co-opting someone on or altering the terms of reference. I mean, this isn't set in stone now as well, so there's some stuff in here. So are you happy to move?
Yeah, I'm happy.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Keast, all in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? Councillor Taylor and Councillor Byers. And Councillor Boper, aye.
And me too.
And Councillor O'Brien. I assume you want those recorded as well? Yes, please. And Councillor Menzies, have you voted in there? Raise your hand if you're a yes, so I can't hear you.
Yep.
Oh, thank you. So I'm just going to double check that we've got the numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. So I declare that motion carried, and that was very good discussion. Thank you. And now would be an opportune time to break for lunch. Shall we have it excluded prior to lunch? Or
Yeah, we might as well do that.
yeah, so the session after lunch will be in public excluded, so I'll move from the chair that the public be excluded from the following parts due to the reasons outlined on the agenda. Is there a second to that? Councillor Keast, all in favour? Anyone against? Carried, and I'll adjourn the meeting for lunch for, what time are we now?
Half an hour.